Okay. All right. So while people are coming in here, welcome, by the way. I would love to invite you to take a breath and let us know how you're feeling as you join this webinar today. We know a lot's going on, and so we just really want to understand where you are with us and the wave of emotions that I know we are all feeling this week, specifically after Tuesday. So, and just invite you to share in the chat, whether you're joining on Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn. We'll be able to see those comments come in, and we'll just give a minute for you to share that and for others to join. Janet, I just want to say great job getting this on Instagram. I'm adding to my story, if I can add to my story. Just give a minute for you to share that and for others to join. Sorry.
Y'all are too hot. Y'all are too techie for me.
I'm doing something. Okay, I'm starting to see some chats roll in now. So drained, some hellos, frustration, grief. It's a better day today, maybe than yesterday. Okay, holding space. I definitely felt like I I'm not. I don't really hold back. I love yous, but I'm not an I love you at everything person either. And I found myself just telling more people like, "Hey, I love you. I see you," and just trying to hold space for myself and really other Black women in this time. And so I definitely see, absorbing, accepting. Thank you for sharing how you're feeling in the chat. We planned to have this conversation before we knew the results of the election. So, I do want to, as appropriate, weave in anything that makes sense. But to just, maybe get us all on the same page, let me just say who the heck I am and why we're here. So, for those that may be new to the Good Lounge and the channel, first, welcome. My name is Janet Pope, and I'm the founder of the Good Lounge, which is a nonprofit that I started in 2021 to really just enable me to share access to tips, tools, resources with women, people of color, and the LGBTQ plus communities. I just found in my work, my day job as a corporate social responsibility leader, there were conversations that different communities were not a part of. And so if I think about like the first time I had a conversation about stocks and 401ks and just financial conversations that for whatever reason other people didn't have access to, I really wanted to make sure that on financial well-being, physical well-being, and emotional well-being, that more people were getting access to the right resources, conversations, because some things just start with the right dialogue. I was actually talking to Sarah over the weekend about like things that we need to be doing to save in the retirement journey, and how the younger you start, the better off you'll be. But just how having those types of conversations in my 20s put me in a decent position for when I retire. So Good Lounge started just off of that and wanting to be able to give more people more access to those resources and tools. And so thank you for being here. Any of the donations that come through go to providing access to those tools. We've given away free therapy. We've given away meditation goggles. There's a number of things that we've been able to do thanks to the support of people who donate to the Good Lounge. For tonight, we're continuing our journey to elevate diverse communities, and the event topic tonight is is reclaiming my time, my testimony, and my transformation. And if I give just a little bit of context for anybody that wasn't paying attention in 2017, when the great Congresswoman Maxine Waters famously used the phrase reclaiming my time, which is a normal phrase in Congress, but it kind of went viral in 2017 in her use. This phrase, reclaiming my time, is really a way to assertively take back control of the conversation or the situation when you feel like your time has been misused or wasted. And so we really want to leverage this as a battle cry, for lack of a better word, an expression of self advocacy, an expression of setting the right boundaries, refusing to be sidelined, and really making sure that we are taking back our time and our focus. And so I thought it was just good timing for me personally to talk about this topic. And in conversations that I've had with Unique and Kim, this is going to be a really, really good discussion. So I'm excited to launch this topic today. And I want to make sure you and the audience know who you're talking to or hearing from on the panel as well. So, Unique, let me turn it over to you to just give us an introduction.
What's up, y'all? My name is Unique Simmons. I'm a mental health professional. I primarily work with children in the CPS and foster care space. I also founded Black and Better to create a system or ecosystem where Black people could come and experience mental wellness and a sustainability model, right? I'm new to Houston. Well, I got to stop saying that. I've been in Houston for 3 years now. And so when I think about the community and the experiences that I've had in Houston and how we all come together within our community, mental health is prevalent, but I think it's important for us to be aware of how we maintain, not only when we think about some of the challenges and traumatic experiences that we've had in our journeys, but how do we maintain a space in our mental health field to feel good and be able to really thrive in our lives. So I'm excited to talk more and engage not only with the audience but my peers here about our journeys and reclaiming our time.
Kim, over to you.
All right, that was a beautiful, wonderful introduction, Unique. What's up, everybody? My name is Kim Daly, and I'm so very grateful to be here right now. So during the day, I am a lawyer. I own my own law firm, and unfortunately, stress my own self out for a number of hours every single day. And in addition to the law firm, I also have previously hosted. I have to be careful about how I communicate. But I have a group called The Culture, which I started back in 2021. That was supposed to be and is heaven on earth for queer Black women, specifically churched queer Black women. And the entire purpose of that group was for those of us who have been marginalized from what we literally believe in, or at least what we grew up believing in, and was kind of the foundation of our identity. For those of us who didn't want to have to choose between our beliefs and who we are as queer Black women. That is who the culture is for. So I'm happy to be having this conversation with y'all today because, baby, it's been one hell of a year. Okay. The year has been yearing, the seasons have been seasoning. And I think that reclaiming our time is something that every last one of us on this call is entitled to today, especially, but has been entitled to and has needed to probably implement in even greater amounts in the last forever since we've been here. So let's get to it. I'm excited for the conversation, and I think we're all going to learn some great things today.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Kim. Okay, so a couple things before I kind of dive into the conversation. As you're listening, if you have a question for Kim, Unique, or me, feel free to drop that in the chat. Again, we can see what you're sharing, whether that's on YouTube or on LinkedIn. And so we look forward to answering those questions. The first thing I have, and let me start with you, Unique. If you can share a pivotal moment when you realized that you needed to reclaim your time and redirect your energy. So talk a little bit about that moment and how you redirected yourself.
Yeah. So Kim said it a little earlier, but life be lifing, right? We have 99 problems. We go to work to pay bills, and it's kind of like this cycle. And I truly believe that for me, my pivotal moment was, you got 99 problems until you have a health problem, right? And then it's like everything goes out the window, and then you're trying to focus on that said health problem. And so I ask myself, life has been lifing, but have I really been living? Right. Like I get up, I'm alive, but am I living day to day? Right. And I think sometimes when you're faced with challenges or you may be staring death in the face, right? It's a wake up call to say, am I making the best out of each moment? And I think for me, that's when the pivotal light switch came up. And it's like you have to be intentional about purpose living. So that's kind of a model that I've been living by, in terms of just really staying focused and not just existing in spaces that I occupy, right? Really being present, and creating an impact. So for me, it's about taking the time to understand what is really important when everything is stripped from you, and then refocusing. And so my pivotal moment was just thinking about, okay, if I'm focused on, getting these bills paid and hitting my calendar of things to do, how much time am I taking to really pour into myself? And then what's left of that to then pour into others and the people around me. And so that was a really huge shift for me to reclaim my time in terms of living longer, being stronger, and being purposeful.
Yeah, I mean that's real, right? I'm sure a lot of people resonate with some reevaluation of your health, waking you up, or even another family member being sick, and that just causing your whole priorities and what is important and what really matters to shift and refocus. So thank you, Unique, for sharing that. Kim, what about you? Same question.
Yeah, I also just want to thank Unique for sharing that, because I think one of the things that I gathered from what you just said, which also rings true in my life, is you can be as stressed as you want to with the things that you be stressed out about all the time. That stress is real. We're not going to invalidate it. But then like something happens where you actually have to think about your entire life or your mortality, or for how much longer can you live like this. And all of a sudden, the stressors that we had, like, damn, I wish I could be stressed about this again right now, but now I'm up here. So that's super real. When I think about the number, like one of the top moments of having to reclaim my time, I go back in time to April of 2021, where the reality of something that could have been as crystal clear predictable would happen happened. I woke up. So let me give you a little bit of background. All right. Graduated law school in 2015. Worked for some really strong law firms while I was in law school, but then started my legal career in a less kind of prestigious firm than the one that I had grown up with while I was training. And that did a few things to an ego girly like me, where I felt like I've got to get back on that level. Like I was there, now I'm here, I've got to get back on that level. And so I did for years. I grinded from that firm to this internship to this opportunity, until finally the opportunity came to go back to what we call a big law firm, where I had initially started back when I was in law school. The thing about the big law firm is that it came with the prestige and it came with the paycheck. But on my very first day, like even in law school, I was like, oh, absolutely not. This is not God's calling for my life. I don't like these people. I don't like these hours. I don't actually like this work. I don't enjoy this at all. But it satisfied, that one part of me that wanted to feel like I had achieved the highest things per, law school standards or whatever. So here I am. It's actually March of 2020. And I have the opportunity to leave a well paying job where I get to do what I want, when I want, where everyone respects me, and I'm building my career quite nicely in order to go get a little bit more money and knock off that I did it, I got to this level. And I told myself that on the first day, I said, I'm only going to be here for 2 years because I know I don't like it and I know I don't want to be here and I know it's going to stress me out. But I can endure that for 2 years. Okay, so that was not endured for 2 years. I started in March of 2020, and one day in April of 2021, again, I'm in that year. We have the pandemic, we have George Floyd, we have America's racial awakening for everyone who's not black. We have all of these things happening, and I'm working at an all-white law firm. All right, or at least my team was. I was the only black person in the country in the litigation section. That's a mess. So I woke up one day after having constantly been stressed, after waking up every day at 2 o'clock in the morning with panic and sweat and oh my gosh, what's going on? Every single day with having people talk to me crazy. I woke up that morning, I got an email. Somebody wanted something that I swear I had just sent the night before. And they
That
were
was the
like, I
last
need
straw.
it now. And it has to happen right now. And it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. My phone, and I was like, I can't do this shit no more. Like I cannot do this shit no more. And I felt myself urge not only of an anxiety attack, but a complete and total mental breakdown, where all of the fear, all of the anxiety, all of the stress, all of the grinding, all of the constantly moving in a direction that was the complete opposite of what I knew I wanted for myself, but it checked this one box. All of it came to the end of the road. And I texted my therapist. No, first I emailed the firm and I was like, effective immediately, I'm on medical leave. I'm unavailable. I will contact you when my medical providers release me. And then I texted my therapist and I was like, I just told the firm I'm on medical leave. I need help. You know what's been going on. This is not okay. Um, that was my turning point. I had given my all to something that I ultimately knew would not satisfy me and something that gave me what I've been asking for in life at the expense of literally every other thing. And I couldn't take it anymore. And it's just like I got spit out of that part of that roller coaster ride that I voluntarily got on. I got spit off of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking to me, friend. You're speaking to me. I think other people have been there. I know
Mhm.
I had a conversation with someone a couple months ago, and we were just, they were sharing some frustrations that they were having about their employer. And I had recently read a book called Necessary Endings by Henry Cloud, and it kind of goes through a business and like a life view of like how certain things just need to end. And as humans, we generally aren't as comfortable with endings. And so whether it's a CEO where it's time to fire someone, or it's time for someone to leave a job for something else, or it's time to stop a product line or in a relationship or whatever it is, we tend to not want to do it. And so I shared that book with the person that I was speaking with, and the next time I saw them, they said they had quit their job. So it was interesting. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know if it's my fault, that book's fault, or that book just gave you the push that you needed to go ahead and do it. But what you're saying really resonates in terms of like hitting a wall and needing to walk away from the job, the relationship, the bad business deal, whatever it is, right? And how there's a form of just like reclaiming your energy by not continuing to suck it in this thing that isn't for you, to your point. So definitely resonates with me. Um, so shifting gears a bit, and I'm gonna ask you about physical well-being at some point too, Kim. I'm seeing the biceps in the frame, so we're definitely gonna talk about what's going on in the physical health realm at some point. But question number two, let's take it to Unique. How have you reclaimed the story? So I know sometimes we get narratives whether right or wrong, in our mind about some things. How have you reclaimed the story that you've told yourself in one area of your life to positively impact your well-being?
Yeah, for me, it's really about loving the thing that I hate the most about my life. That's really, really hard to do, but I'm intentional about loving it, right? And so understanding that, and my belief that everything happens for reasons, that blessings come through you to impact other people, and even your challenges and celebratory moments are not for you, they are for others, right? And so loving the things that I hate the most about my journey or that has impacted me really allows me to reclaim the narrative of my story, right? So diagnoses are not death sentences. I really use that to, one, from a motivation standpoint, to get me up and get me going. But two, the second component to that is the discipline on it, right? So when you think about discipline and being more intentional about nutrition, being more intentional about your spiritual health, being more intentional about your emotional connections with other people, right? Because we navigate through this life, right? Experiencing others. And sometimes when you're not aware of where you currently are, you'll allow people into your space that ain't really meant for you. So being intentional about how we engage on a day to day has allowed me to continue to reclaim my time and pour into myself first.
Yeah, I love that. Kim.
So, I thought that I would be sharing about coming out and all of these things that I told myself before I came out. But like, if it's not, I don't know. Bitches is gay. Bitches grew up in church. Bitches still love God and still love women. So there go that story. But more recently, there was an instance probably about a year ago in therapy where my therapist told me, Kim, every day life is inviting you to acknowledge your limitations, and every day you are refusing to do so.
Mm.
One of the things, we tell ourselves stories consciously, and we also tell ourselves stories subconsciously. And one of the unconscious thought patterns I had was that I have to be perfect. I have to do this right. I have to do everything that I set out to do. Everything has to be great. Everything has to be wonderful. Because if I am not perfect, then I am unworthy. Period. Just perfection is the only thing that's permissible, and anything less is simply unacceptable. And so I had a hard time accepting reality on a daily basis because the bitch ain't perfect. And I had by constantly pushing myself past my limitations. We talked a second ago about how I was at the firm, life was so stressful, everybody needed everything. It was white people, it was racism, it was all. I almost had to go on medical leave with my own firm, you know, like imagine it being 3 years later. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I cannot blame Billy Bob or John this time for these same types of burnout experiences that I'm facing. And so for me, it was recognizing humans aren't perfect. And to set a standard of perfection is to lose your humanity. And why would we do, like, we are humans. And so to Unique's point of like embracing the things that she hates about her journey, for me it's being honest about my limitations even when I don't like them, and like learning to love my shortcomings instead of like disciplining them, or like we got to get rid of this, or we got to get it out, or this is not okay. It's just like, well, the baby procrastinated today. The baby was scared of the consequences. Okay, does the baby need a hug? Okay, do you need a hug for 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Okay, 15 minutes? Okay, after a hug, do you think you'll feel like literally like babying myself into it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. Maybe we can do one step better this time. And I'm still working on that. but it is still a very helpful blood pressure lowering and just joy inviting place to be, is to give yourself grace.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. The perfectionism trap is certainly one that many people fall into, right? And whether I've had conversations with, I mean, this deeply resonates. Like if I think about teams, how I'll, have to coach us into like 80-20. Like it doesn't need to be 100%. Like let's figure out where 80-20 is and just put a stake in the ground and move forward. But also just thinking about like, we see this in so much research about women and how like women won't even apply for a job unless they think they meet 100% of the criteria.
Mhm.
It's the same perfectionist cycle thing, right? And so then you get the job and you're, doing more than is even requested or required of you because of whatever this thing is that is programmed to us from society, that we have to carry it all, we have to take it all, we have to do it all. And on top of that, you're probably carrying the load for the household and the family and all these other things. And so that's definitely unrealistic to your point, and it's only going to lead to burnout. And so catching that as early as possible is really, really big. I know for myself personally, I can intellectualize things and like it's like, okay, what's the action I need to take here? And I'm gonna go research 50 things and read 5 books to figure out how to do. And it's like, it's probably actually not that hard. Like just do the thing and fail fast and do a different thing versus intellectualizing every single thing. So yeah, that resonates deeply. Before I move on, Unique, one of the things you said, and the way that I like to think about it is, what did this come here to teach me? That has really reframed the way that I think about a lot of life lessons and how I try to pull myself out of repeating the same cycle. It's like, wait a minute, this has showed up at least twice. What is the lesson I'm supposed to be getting here? Because clearly I ain't got it yet.
Right.
Doing this again, right? And good stuff coming in the chat too. Burnout's big, giving ourselves grace. Love it, love it, love it. All right. So before we move into any questions that are coming from the audience, and again, let us know if you have any questions. I do have one more question for you. So we've talked about like how we've reclaimed our time. We've talked about our own testimony and our story, and kind of like how we framed our narrative for our own well-being. Can you share a little bit about the most impactful transformation that you've seen from reclaiming a specific aspect of your own journey?
Yeah, for me, it's I would say that some of the things that I didn't imagine myself being able to do, I'm doing them, right? I text my friends in a group chat and was like, I'm becoming very domesticated. Like I am making immunity shots. I am like doing things that I would not normally do, right? I think a couple of things play a part in that. Moving from your core village, right, halfway across the country, and really being here, to kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps and navigate through life as an adult, making friends as an adult, building community in a new space, has allowed me to really tap into parts of me that may have been dormant for a while. And so I think the growth at this big age was a critical point in terms of self-reflection and the transformation piece of saying, it's not too late to learn how to cook certain things, right? Or, maybe you didn't like things in your 20s and now, you're getting to that middle age. So these things are starting to look more appealing to you. But to think about the consistencies around just these last 2 years and really being intentional about putting myself out there and building the type of community that I want ultimately all of the world to experience. has been most important to me. And, it's still a journey. I think there are times where I'm just like Kim said, giving myself some grace and saying, okay, girl, you'll figure it out tomorrow, right? And not being so hard on myself. Um, and then there's some things where I'm like, yeah, it is about me, and I can be very selfish in that moment, which is important because when I think about pouring into myself, right? I don't know what y'all do, but for me, like when I do my calendar, it's like my work stuff first. And then I pin in like what I need to do for the kids. And then I pin in like, okay, here are the obligations that I have. And then I have like these very small boxes of like unique time. And so I've been thinking about things this year and saying, nope, I'm going to start with me. And if it doesn't work out for work, then so what? If it doesn't work out for some of these obligations, then so what, right? So I think when I really sit back and look at the transformation and really reclaiming my time, is really restructuring my thought process on pouring into me first and then let everything else fall where they may.
Yeah, I love that idea because you're right. The stuff for ourselves usually is the last thing on the list and the first thing
Mm-hmm.
to fall off the list. So
Mm-hmm.
really focusing on yourself first is very, very important. Kim, what are you thinking?
I couldn't have said it much better than Unique just said it. The again, part of for me recognizing, and this was a very hard recognition because like when you're the type of perfectionist that knows that it's like not perfection to be a perfectionist, and like everything is just like, oh no, this isn't working. But I put a lot of my value and my worth into my accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't recognize how much it was a value thing. Because I was like, no, like I think I'm the shit. I think I'm this. I think I'm that. And I remember telling my therapist one time again last year, like, I love myself. I love my. She was like, do you? First off, watch your mouth. Okay. And she was like, you very clearly like yourself. You don't treat people that you love the way you treat yourself. You're not as rough on them. You don't flake on them. You don't always push their needs aside. Like you say you love yourself, baby, but where? Because love requires certain prioritization of self, and self separate from whatever core identity that we have that is external to us. And so for me, the transformation has been joy. Oh my gosh, like having time, because and if anybody wants to know how I did it, well, I spent almost every year of my life, instead of like relaxing and having a good time, punishing myself for not having completed the entire world and universe of activities for the day. And but once I started being like, you know what, instead of waking up and hyperventilating over emails,
Mm-hmm.
because that has not gotten the emails to stop, that has not gotten the stress, like that has not helped anything. So instead, bitch, I'm finna do some hip openers to a little twerk song in the mirror. And I'm gonna walk my dog. And I am going to give myself 30 minutes of not stressing. Just whatever you do in this 30 minutes, you just ain't finna stress. And to Janet's point, that has involved like almost daily evening workouts. Done.
Mm-hmm.
It has to end at this hour. Like setting and enforcing boundaries with myself, I think is really the way that I got there. This is my boundary is that at 6:30 p.m. I come first. Period. Whatever happens, happens. I come first.
Yeah, what one of the things I want to just maybe pull on that thread. Some of the personally for me, some of the things that were wearing me out, I did it to myself. So, like, for example, I remember in 2019 just really saying, like, this weekend work's got to stop. Like, I'm not going to work on the weekends anymore unless it's just some crazy emergency, which is maybe twice a year. I would imagine something like that happening. I'm going to stop doing it. And so I literally remember going to leaders and saying, hey, just so you know, not going to work on the weekends anymore. If you have an emergency, sure, text me, but otherwise, I'm not working on the weekends. What did they say? Okay. I
Yep.
did that to myself. I was doing that to myself. And so, how to like really, to your point, like put yourself first. I don't want to oversell that. Certainly there's some people where they're going to have a boundary and they test it out and it doesn't work and they maybe need to make a different decision. But there's so much pressure that we're actually putting on ourselves for some of these things to just like really revisit, like, where did this come from? Do I really have to do this in the way that I'm doing? I have an ongoing thing with a friend who's always teasing me because we talk about cooking. And I always say, I don't cook, I heat stuff up, because I'll throw something in the air fryer in a heartbeat, like quick, right? And so I know some people are like under pressure. They have big families. They're making these, 3-course meals. If you're doing that because you love doing it, great. Keep doing it. Like, that literally does bring some people joy. But if you're doing that because you feel the pressure to do it, that you have to, do you really? Like, I would challenge that, right? And so, yeah, I love what you're saying there, Kim. Really, really good points. Any questions? I don't see any questions in the chat yet. I do see some fun comments. Thank you for these. Anybody have a question for Kim or Unique? While those are coming in, any resources that you would share?
Um, I want to share my favorite book. So my favorite book, y'all know I'm old, is Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery. It talks about how we are conditioned to feel some of the ways that we feel, Kim. So the perfection, the prioritizing us at the bottom of the list. I think when we think about what just happened on this Tuesday and the societal influences, especially on Black women, on being overqualified and still not selected for that job role, etc. It has been deep rooted in our history, right? And so this is my favorite book, one of my favorite books, because it really talks about how do we break that, right? How do we train our minds to create better habits for ourselves in those spaces? So check this book out. He's actually, so Dr. Naeem Akbar is actually a professor at the University of Houston now. He's traveled all over the world. So really good book. From a mental health perspective, I've been following Masterpiece Wellness. Masterpiece Wellness. They have really, really good group of therapists for all walks of life. So if you are out there, you need a therapist, Masterpiece Wellness is a good resource for therapy.
Perfect. Yeah. So I like that book, and I know how hype you are about it, Unique. So if that book sounds interesting to you, throw in the chat you would like a copy, and I'll randomly select 3 people and figure out how to get you a copy of Unique's favorite book. So if you're interested in that, just say I'd like a copy. We'll figure out how to get you a copy for 3 random people. Before we move on to any resources or tips or tools that Kim has, I do want to go back to your mention and talk about this a little bit, because I think it's important for boundaries and reclaiming our time and our mental health and wellness as we move forward from Tuesday. America's toxic boyfriend's back. He spent the block. And for some reason, America loves him. And we're the friends on the side that's like, no, don't do it. Don't go back. It's crazy. But America's like, no, we're going to try this. So what other guidance tips would you have? What have you been doing to process this? Or what will you be doing as we continue on to just take care of yourself and continue to protect your joy, your peace, your space, your time, if anything? And maybe you haven't thought that far, but if you have, would love to hear it.
I'll go first. So, and yeah, I've remembered back to how I felt in 2016. Devastation, desperation, and fear. And as comforting as grieving through those emotions was at the time, just like crying or whatever, my own personal stress about the situation did not help or assist with anything. And so this time I said, what good? And I understand that we don't all have that in the moment. But I said, what can I do about it right now? And like between Tuesday and today ain't been shit none of us could do about it. And my thought process was, if they're coming to take away our joy, to take away our livelihood, and to have us living in fear, if I cannot do that today, that's what I'm going to do. Like, if it's going to happen in the future, I'm gonna let it happen when it's supposed to happen. But right now, I want to experience joy, and so I will. And I also saw a hilarious TikTok earlier today that corresponds with, again, so I have like my non-serious feelings and then my serious feelings. Seriously, there's a lot of work. We've been pushed many steps back, and there's a lot of work to be done. Non-seriously, I wish a nigga would tell me who I'ma love and who I'ma marry and who I'ma be in a relationship. Listen, I'm like, ain't no, we had to jump over brooms, goddamn it. Okay, like if I'm gonna get married, I'm a love who I want to love. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I can say that, like we can say those things about love, but I also recognize that we can't just say those things about things like reproductive health care. So where there's room to find joy, I am finding it, and where there is room to fear, there'll be room next year. So I'm just gonna let that be. There's a time for it, and the time's not going to be today for the sake of my sanity.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Unique?
Yeah, mine is disconnecting, from media outlets, not just social, but all media. And in the progress forward, I think I'm maybe too far to the left with this, but I think that Black people should go back into us taking care of ourselves. It's so funny because I had a conversation around women's rights, right? And all of these stipulations and bans against our reproductive freedom. And my position in the conversation was, well, we have doctors doing underground stuff for BBLs and teeth and all of these things, right? Um, how can we get to a space where we're building our own healthcare system and have the right infrastructure around it, that we can continue to stand ourselves up and kind of build a way where we can push the other things out? I know that's going to take a lot of work because as a community, we're just so divided on a lot of things. But if we can come together, we can really take this to the next level. I don't want to say take it down, but take things to the next level and really push across the agenda that will serve our community. So for me, it's about disconnecting, but more importantly, it's about coming together as a community and taking care of our people.
Yeah, listen, you don't have to say community to me. Community, everything. Like hashtag community, always community. Community first. Community is so important. I would be nowhere without community. To that point, there are things that if people weren't doing, please start doing, like supporting Black-owned businesses, like supporting women-owned businesses. So, those are things that, again, I don't know if you were doing that before or not, but certainly doubling down on that, maybe unique to your point, to make sure that we, continue that solidarity. So good. Thanks everybody for joining. Again, I see some great comments, but no additional questions for you all. So maybe we've wrapped it up pretty well. I'll maybe just check in with you for any final thoughts that you might have for our community as we go forward.
I'll say, Janet, keep doing things like this. Keep bringing the community together. Keep having diversity of thought. Be in a position where we're not going to always see eye to eye or agree on specific topics, but I do believe that it's healthy for us to continue to navigate that dynamic. And that's the way that we, to your point, really bridge the community. We have to be really intentional over the next 4 years and beyond about coming together. And we may not be able to save the world, right? But we could start where we are right now. So this group, the people that have joined, right? Like being consistent in the commitment to the community is going to be critical for us, our children, and their children.
Absolutely. Well said. Kim, your thoughts?
My thought is absolutely on the community 100%. Isolation is not the move right now. And I say that as a person who does not enjoy a healthy or excessive amount of isolation. But community is actually critically important. And I want to share an example just from earlier today. I was going through some stuff at work that was stressing me out. And me and my best friend have been supposed to been having a work session for like a month now, and it hasn't happened. And I was just like, hey, listen, so I'm beginning to stress and I don't want to be. So I'm just going to communicate what my fears are right now because I know, fear underlies all of this. Da, 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 da. These are my fears. I understand they're irrational. I'm going to have to open this. It's like sometimes like when you're an undergrad or in school or whatever, and like you don't want to look at your exam scores. And so you just sit there and you're like anxious about it. But it's like, bro, it is what it is. Go figure it out. Stop losing sleep. And so
Yeah,
that's what it was. And I was like, oh my God, I have literally spent 11 hours stressing out about this, and this is not a problem at all. Thank
absolutely.
you. But just by the power of being able to lean on someone else and
Mhm.
vocalize, this is what scares me right now. Will you stay here with me while I work through it? So that's number one. And then again, giving grace to yourself and loving yourself. I have not read the book that Unique described, but I absolutely know that we are absolutely conditioned away from ourselves and in
Mhm.
so many ways, in so many shapes, in so many forms. And so if you struggle with knowing what it looks like to give yourself grace or what it looks like to love yourself, think about the person you love most in this world. And how would you respond to them if they came to you with what you need to get out now? If they said, oh my gosh, I think I'm a failure in life because X, Y, and Z, would you be like, you right, motherfucker, you are a failure? Or would you be like, wow, it puzzles me that someone could, like, that you of all people could think that of yourself and then affirm them? Like, we gotta, Donald Lawrence said, we gotta learn how to encourage ourselves. And baby, we're gonna need that. And we can't encourage other people too. Like, we have to give to ourselves if we ever want to be of good use to others.
Absolutely. Put your mask on first, right? Yeah, I love it. I love these tips. The last thing I'll say, and again, I'm an introvert too, Kim. I'm a social introvert, but I'm an introvert at heart. I have been much more intentional, thanks on coaching from others, in like just giving better hugs. Like, I love you, man, for real, not just the church tap that I'm kind
Mhm.
of like, this is a platonic hug, but who knows how long any of us are going to be here. Like, I really want to, enjoy this moment and maybe make it a little weird, right? Because sometimes people aren't used to that. But yeah, like just really saying, like, I love you, I care about you, and doing more of that and it not turning into this weird thing for people.
Mhm.
Try to be a little bit more intentional about that this year. And again, just so thankful for the community around me, the community that's engaging. And I really feel blessed to just even be able to have this conversation with both of you who are a part of my community. If you like this webinar, if you want more of them, again, any tips, resources we can share on financial, physical, or emotional well-being is why the Good Lounge exists. If you want to donate, you can check out the link below. Thegoodlounge.org/about gives you more information on what we're up to. Thegoodlounge.org slash stats, I think, is all the information around like how the donations are spent. So thank you for joining. We look forward to you subscribing to the YouTube channel if you have not yet done that. And I hope to see you on a future Good Lounge session. Thank you so much, Unique Kim. And I hope everybody can find some joy the rest of their week.
Peace.